40 of the recap show. We started it this past spring, and we are at number 40 already. So welcome to number 40. Here we go. It's Monday. Let's do this. So what's the recap show? We recapped last week's interviews. We had 3 guests, and we're going to recap them. And I'm joined by Kim Lantis, who's joined me from Hermosillo, Mexico. Hi, Kim. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, let's have some fun. So we had 3 shows. The first one we're going to review was titled IA
versus AI.
Yes, augmented intelligence versus artificial intelligence, specifically how to solve our HR tech challenges. That was with Joe Thurman. We were talking about how to humanize the process of hiring people. And then, of course, we also had another show with Stephen Epstein, using tax credits to fuel growth, the most overlooked source of funding. That was an interesting conversation. And finally, at the end of the week on Thursday, we had Accelerate Drugs and Medical Devices Development, a Digital Revolution with Luca and Emili. So I found all 3 very interesting. Particularly, I'm interested in learning how we can accelerate the development of new drugs and new medical technology to essentially improve the lives of billions of people worldwide. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that's clear is this: a lot of regulation, and the process to get to discovery is too long, 10 to 12 years. It's just not, in the times we live in today, where technology is changing every 3 to 6 months, that's just not going to cut it. And also the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic and having to wait that long to get any kind of resolution, it's just not going to cut it. So the idea of having a platform that essentially works like open source technology, if you're in the software business, you know what open source has done in terms of rapid development, in terms of the ability to get a product out to market a lot faster than even 10 years ago. The same concept with what they call crowd science, so that multiple scientists and researchers can collaborate, use a similar platform to gain insights, but you still maintain your own IP, your own proprietary intelligence behind what you're building, but you're enabling a global community of collaborators to speed up the process of getting to, finding cures and developing new technologies. I liked it a lot. I felt they have something that's very valuable, very timely, and I wouldn't be surprised if they become a unicorn in essence in terms of the valuation and the growth that they're going to have.
Yeah, the talk with that particular company was really interesting to me. I didn't have the opportunity to co-host that one, but I did watch it. And I think you're onto something. I think that was my biggest takeaway, was the need. And I think this is a topic that has come up again and again over the last couple weeks. And you said it again, and that's with collaboration. So the whole idea here is reducing R&D costs, right? So that we can accelerate that. And I thought it was interesting that he brought up, everybody's bringing up these days, COVID, but the fact that decreasing research and development timelines is nothing new, or the need to do that. But what's kind of cool about it is with the onset of COVID, that it became this something that everybody knew, but now it's everybody's concern. And so we can actually focus on, I think, getting something faster that should have been done faster a long time ago. So I think that's one of the perhaps a silver lining of what's going on. But what I thought was really interesting too is he said the point is to democratize the use of complex tools in R&D, but basically without infringing on the IP or the intellectual property, which you mentioned, which I think is debatable, right? If we're talking about health, this is something that affects everybody, and how to get there faster should be that common knowledge, because everyone, I think, benefits from that. And I think that was really human, which is another word that we are throwing around, a buzzword that we're throwing out a lot this week, going back to examples of how we can make our HR and recruiting processes more human.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, we had a guest the week prior that talked about the idea of having, let's say, your competitors come on your podcast or on your video blog. And the idea was that there's more than enough, right? So you actually can create a business model where instead of holding things close to the vest, by collaborating, you open up market opportunities for everyone, and there's enough to go around.
What's
for
good
everyone.
for you is good for me, right?
Exactly. So it's just a mindset shift that says, instead of closed garden, own, limited, right? You're only going to succeed. There's billions of dollars spent in pharmaceutical research, for example, that just goes to waste. I wonder how much of that could be recaptured if there was more collaboration, right? And that, don't make any mistakes about it. That money comes from you and I, right? There's the things, investors are putting that money. Well, where do the investors get the money from? Ultimately, it's from our spending, it's from the tax bases, and it comes from us. So the more collaboration, the more opportunity. So that's great. Talking about tax value, an interesting conversation with Stephen Epstein about this overlooked source of funding. A lot of companies, very smart companies, can be very effective in how they capture tax credits to reduce essentially their cost basis, and in some cases increase their financial bottom line, their access to cash. And some really good tips and advice for any business really to take advantage of and look into the codes and what's available, because it changes every year. So if you're not doing that, you're kind of doing your business an injustice by not taking advantage of codes and laws that are perhaps favoring some credits for certain things, for certain investments, for example.
This untapped source that maybe we haven't even considered, and definitely worth looking into. And they can go ahead and help, right, with that expertise and the fine lines of how to go about doing that. Particularly if you're like me and you're paperwork avergent.
So if you didn't watch that show, you want to get the details of that, please check it out. And finally, the conversation with Joe Thurman about humanizing the process of hiring people. That is such a big topic today. I don't know about you, but I see on LinkedIn people sharing stories about what getting interviewed, preparing presentations, doing research, and then getting just this quick note saying, thanks, we've chosen somebody else. No feedback, no comment, nothing that will help that candidate better understand what they could do better the next time, right? So it's very disingenuous and disconnected and really lacks human dignity. And what he was proposing is you can use technology and augmented intelligence is what he was calling, to essentially keep things more on point, to create a better experience, to humanize the experience. Just kind of a conflict to think, okay, technology is going to humanize the experience. But if you use it right, in the right context, you actually can improve
augmenting
the experience.
And not replacing, which is, I think, the aversion that a lot of people might have with artificial intelligence. And I think it was really interesting because, first of all, kudos to Joe, because he followed the entrepreneurship path and is really excited about tapping into his passion, which was a really big takeaway from me as well. An inspiring talk. And yeah, I think what he was talking about too, particularly in the hiring process, is the need to have consistency and to remove our biases, right, that we might experience as a human. And maybe even if we're not having those consistent questions during our interview process, that perhaps we focus more on somebody's, and I think, what did he say? Somebody's story more than their ability, right? And sometimes it's about asking the wrong questions. And so that's how we can augment our own processes as well, to help not just for the experience and humanizing for those who are wanting to work with us, but making sure that we're even benefiting from that and building the best team possible by removing any of our own, downfalls in that process.
Exactly. So check out that show if you didn't see it. There's some great tips on there. We're coming up on time. I promise we'll do this in 10 minutes. So Kim, what do we got coming up this week?
I think I've got about 20 seconds. Let's do this.
Go for it. Let's do this.
All right. October 13th, we're going to be talking with Gino Donati, founder of Seed2C. Sales development can make or break a startup. The following day, October 14th, we'll be talking with David Wald, CEO and co-founder of, I think I'm pronouncing this correctly, Acclaimant, identifying and protecting what's important. Discover how technology is used to help companies empower employees in creating a culture of workplace safety. And finally, on Thursday the 15th, no, excuse me, that's Friday, right?
Thursday, you got it right.
Okay, cool. Raji Kalra, co-founder and CEO of PeopleTale, the future of retail through people-to-people shopping.
Interesting. So we get a big today because we didn't do it in 10 minutes, but we can try again next Monday. Keep us on point. Check us out. Comment when we're coming up on time. And say, hey, guys, you're coming up on time. You promised to do this in 10 minutes. So we're over now. Who cares? Anyway, see you guys back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific. And until then, stay safe.
Bye.